Good afternoon and welcome back to Hove. I'm Father Alexander. This is St. Peter's Church, and it's absolutely scorching here. Welcome to the next stage in the heat wave. And we're going to discuss today Psalm 127 brackets 128, which is our 195th step in our walking tour through the Bible. Now, it may come as a bit of a shock to you, but we often hear so much about family values and the importance of family life. Saint John Paul II said with complete correctness, as goes the family, so goes the world. The collapse of the family will lead to the collapse of the world. Where you have strong family life, there you have a strong society, and you have a strong nation, and you have a strong world, and a peaceful world as well. That actually is simply true. A lot of people might deny it, but it's simply true. For example, you'll have far fewer um, feral young people in a society where there is strong family life. You'll have less crime, and have less political disorder. The political disorder that arose in Germany in the 1930s was clearly connected to the collapse of family life in Germany, which was caused by the huge casualties in the First World War. A lot of fatherless young men joining the Nazi Party, joining the Communist Party, and joining private armies. Let's not get sidetracked. There's very little about family life in the Bible. It's taken for granted. It seems to be a good thing, but there are very few vignettes about family life that tell us what a good thing family life is. But this psalm tells us what family life should be like. It's a very short psalm, it's a very beautiful psalm. Oh, blessed are those who fear the Lord and walk in his ways. Presumably, this is a psalm that they sang walking up to Jerusalem. By the labor of your hands you shall eat. You will be happy and prosper. Okay, now here we get something to do with work. In other words, you'll work, and because you work hard, you will eat well, and you will be happy, and you will prosper. You won't just get by, you won't scratch a living, you'll be happy and you'll prosper. So the idea is of a well-fed farmer who is contented. But what does this contentment consist in? And this is important. Well, what makes a farmer happy? Aha, your wife, like a fruitful vine. Having a wife will make you happy. The companionship of a wife, like a fruitful vine in the heart of your house. I think that's a nice image. You go through the door, and as soon as you walk into the house, you have this sense of the presence of your wife, whichever room she's in. She's there at the heart of the house. Now, the heart is the organ that pumps around the blood. We know that. But the heart is the seat of the feelings. The heart is the warmth. When the heart stops pumping, the body loses its warmth. The body is dead. The heart gives life. The wife is the heart in the heart of your house. She is the heart of the house. She is what makes the house a home. And I think this is absolutely true. I used to notice this when I was a little boy. When I was young, my mother would go out and she'd leave us all food and say, right, you look after yourselves. And she'd say to the older brothers, you make sure Alexander gets fed. Things like that. So I always felt that left alone with my brothers in a completely male household, that without my mother there, things were a little bit savage. That's what I felt. That the civilizing influence of my dear mother had been withdrawn, thankfully only for a time. So she is the civilizing influence. You'll be having your wife like a fruitful vine, a vine that bears fruit. It's beautiful picking grapes, isn't it? So the wife is also a fruitful vine. Now, this clearly means she has children. And yes, it goes on. Your children like shoots of the olive around your table. So you sit down to eat, and there are all these children looking up at you, and they're all happy, and they're all, getting ready to eat. That the table fellowship, as theologians call it, rather an ugly phrase, is the sign or is the symbol of family life, just as the church meets around the altar of the Lord. So the family meets around the table in the dining room or the kitchen. And that is where they experience the community of togetherness. And we must lament the fact that so many families no longer eat together. Indeed, thus shall be blessed the man who fears the Lord. So, fear of the Lord, reverence of the Lord, service of the Lord, the blessing that the Lord gives us is family life. Important. Family life is, of course, something anybody can have if they're usually, and it's a common blessing, but it is a profound blessing and it's an important blessing. And just because it is a common blessing, it is not to be despised. May the Lord bless you from Zion all the days of your life. May these blessings continue, not just now, but for the rest of your life. May you see your children's children in a happy Jerusalem. May you grow old to see not just your children grow up, but your children have children. And may you live in a happy city of the Lord, Jerusalem. And indeed, the wedding blessing, the nuptial blessing says, may you live to see your children's children. Nowadays, with medical advances, many people live to see their great grandchildren. And I've known even a few people who've lived to see their great great grandchildren. There was a lady in my last parish who was only about 30. Her great grandmother was happily still with us and she had children. So they had a great great grandmother. So the family extends not just beyond the wife and the children, the husband, it extends up and down the generations, uncles, aunts, and so on. This is a beautiful psalm. It shows us that there is a connection between the love of God and family life. Family life is given to us by God. It is one of his great gifts. Incidentally, it also follows, if you turn this on its head, those who want to abolish God also want to abolish family life. One of the most successful, if that is quite the word, bunch of people who tried to abolish family life were, of course, the Soviets. They created this horrible little boy as a Soviet hero, the boy who denounced his parents and had them carted off to a gulag. I can't remember what the boy was called, but he was held up as a hero of the Soviet Union. He may not actually have existed. He might have just been a propaganda tool. The other thing that the Soviets did, and indeed the Chinese communists did, is that they destroyed privacy. So, for example, in the area of Brezhnev, the flats didn't have corridors connecting each flat. So you walked through other people's flats to get to your own. So there was no privacy. Again, in Mao's China, everybody had to eat in a canteen rather than eat at home. And therefore, the family bond was sacrificed for the greater bond of the party, the nation, and so on. But our primary um, allegiance must be to our nearest and dearest, our families. And indeed, the state has absolutely no business interfering with family life. Now, it is true that sometimes children must be taken into care, but that has got to be carefully calibrated. It's got to be carefully considered. It's very difficult for social workers knowing when a child is at risk. They're often criticised when children are murdered by their parents, which very sadly does happen in Britain, and rather more often than anybody would like. But at the same time, they're very much criticised when they do take children into care. They're taking a child away from its parents. The parents are the best people to look after the child, usually, unless there's something terribly wrong with the parents. Let us pray for family life. And let us, this is the important thing, tell children, very young children, that this is their goal in life, to found a family, to live in communion with other people. That's how we learn to live in communion with other people, as John Paul II would have said, through family life. Hope this helps. All the very best.